Welcome. Welcome to another edition of Let That Sink In. Well, I'm your host, Don P. And I would like to thank you for joining us again. If you're a first-time viewer, I would like to thank you for joining me this first time. And if you joined me once before or several times before, I would like to thank you again. I always like to thank those that take out their time to view what I have to say, and get some insight from what we have to say. As you can see, it's called Let That Sink In. So basically, I just want y'all to understand it. I just want y'all to start thinking and let stuff start not going over your head, but go in your ear and evaluate it and figure out what's going on in this world today. All right. So with that being said, I want to go right into the topic. Our topic today is love. As I told you in the previous podcast that this was going to be something that I wanted to do because I've noticed that in this day and time, we have become so wrapped up in hate. It's just almost been a part of our culture that, we just accept hate in modern day society. So I want to offset that with love because love is where it all starts from. Hate is just a byproduct of love. But love is where everything stems from. So before we get into the discussion, when I get into a topic of a specific word, I like to define it first so everyone can see what the definition of it is. So with that being said, I want to go into the Merriam-Webster's definition of what love is. So here it is. It says the first definition is strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. It also says attraction based on sexual desire, affection, and tenderness felt by lovers. And the third definition is affection based on admiration, benevolence, and common interests, right? Okay. So I just don't want to get a perspective from one dictionary, so I went to another dictionary. I went to the Cambridge, and it says to like another adult very much and be romantically and sexually attracted to them, or to have strong feelings or liking a friend or person in your family. Okay. And another definition is to like something very much. All right. So there you have it. Those are the definitions of what the dictionary say love is, right? So let's get into it. So first of all, I want to say love is not a feeling. Yeah, I know that's probably going to take some of you by storm, but love is not a feeling. Love is an action. And we're going to get more into that as we get through this episode. Love is an action. Love affects your feelings and emotions. So love, it affects your feelings and your emotions, but it is not feelings. It affects it, but it's not feelings. So a lot of times we've been told, love is basically a feeling when it's not. So I want to talk about love and the effects of love. So before we get into the love part of it, I want to get into the hate, because hate is the opposite of love. So, when you're not dealing in love, you're dealing in hate. And like I said, hate has become a major part of society and the culture these days. So I want to dispel that myth that everybody think that everything is a hate society now, when a lot of that is being perpetuated throughout society today. But love is still king. And I want to know, why is so much hate being given out these days? Now, if you know anything about society, we have everything trickles down from the top to the bottom. So, with that being said, if a lot of hate is being administered through society today, it's because it's coming from higher up, right? Because everything is taken from the example being set by the higher ups. And we all know that we have a hate society up top. There is no love up top. As much as people want to feel like there is, the hate is coming down from up top. You know, the hate is being promoted and perpetuated by the people these days because it comes through our music, it comes through the media, which is television, social media, publications. You know, a lot of that is reinforced by these entities. You know, back in the day, we used to have love songs, and our R&B was all about love. That's what we sang about in a lot of our songs. And that's why, you know, love was in the air. And, you know, we used to listen to love songs. So those things were going into our minds and in our way of thinking and actions. So we had a lot more love back in the day, right? And a lot of our TV programs, you know, we had TV programs that dealt in love. You had things like The Cosby Show. No matter what they trying to portray Bill Cosby as, you know, we're not going to look at that, because I'm not here to say if he was wrong or he was right, or if it's true or it's false or whatever. But what I do know is that The Cosby Show was a positive program. It showed a lot of love, you know, for family, which we had. You know, we had a lot of family love back in the day. You know, we used to have family reunions. We used to have family get-togethers. We used to even have dinner on Sunday with Big Mama, you know, grandmama, granny, whatever you want to label her as. You know, we used to have dinner on Sunday. That's where everybody would come to, get a plate, you know, have conversation and stay connected with one another. But, you know, that seems to have gone by the wayside nowadays. You know, we used to have, you have The Cosby Show. We used to have I Love Lucy. We used to have cartoons that showed love. We used to have all type of programs that showed love. So, you know, that's why I think we had more love in the air back in the day than we do today. Because if you look at the selections that we have in media today, it's a lot of hate, a lot of murder, a lot of chaos, a lot of drama. You know, you got these reality shows that, you know, a lot of cat fighting and a lot of negativity, no one getting along, and showing bad examples of today's family, not showing love. You know, movies, you see all these horror movies out, you know, and like I always tell you before, what you feed your mind, that's what you become. What you put in your inside of you, it's in your heart, it's gonna come out. There's no way that you're gonna get around that. What's inside of you will eventually come out. You might be able to hide it for a little while, but in the end, it's gonna come out. So you have to stop feeding yourself that negativity. So, you know, we used to love our families back in the day. We used to have love for families. And, you know, back when I was growing up, we had love for our community. We used to know everybody in the community. We used to know the parents. We used to know the kids. We even knew the adults that didn't have kids. May have had kids that was older than us, that had went on and went about their way and their living or whatever. But we still knew people. We knew Miss Johnson, Miss Wilson, you know, all the people around the neighborhood. We used to be able to go over and hang with their kids and, you know, go over their house without worries of something happening to you, somebody doing something bad to you, you know, something that's not appropriate with you or anything like that. We used to be able to go over people's house even when their kids wasn't there because the parents knew who we were. They knew who our parents were. They knew who we were. And we used to go to the store for the elders. We used to cut their grass. They would pay us. Shoveling snow, raking leaves. That's how we made money. Throughout our community. And we didn't have to worry about all the things that goes on today. Being scared. For your kids to be around certain people and everything. It's just become a society of a lot of negativity. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to give this topic, to put love back in the air and just let people know that, love is still real. It's still alive, so don't just get bogged down with all that hate and don't feed your mind all that hate. You see a lot of times, you might even be talking to your friends, your partners or whatever, or you might see a program with it, people's like, oh, they hating on me. They hating on me. You don't never see nobody say, oh, they loving on me. They loving on me. Hate is that's what I'm saying about being part of our culture nowadays, because that stuff has been programmed into our head because, you can control a person or a people by what is being fed into their heads, right? So we have family that don't even communicate no more. We used to have like family, used to hang around family. Family used to come around, you used to be able to be close knit with families. Like I said before, you used to have family reunions, used to have Sunday dinners and those type of things. But those type of things don't really exist like they used to. I'm not saying that they don't exist, because I know some people probably still participate in those type of events, but it's few and far between, because you used to be able to go over your friend's house on Sunday. They ask you, do you want something to eat or things like that? And, you don't get that anymore. Everybody is off to themselves, in their own little worlds. So, one thing I want to say is, I want to challenge everybody that if a family member or a friend, a good friend, comes across your mind, reach out to them. Just say, what's going on with you? I just had you on my mind, want to see how you doing. Is everything okay? I'm just thinking about you. You'll be surprised how far that would go and how that would uplift someone's spirit, just to let, people know that people are thinking about them. Especially a loved one or someone that you consider a friend or a family member, So, I just sit back and think sometime. I was like, when did everything change? And it probably changed in different periods for different people, but I think it all started changing in the late 90s. And then I think it totally changed in the 2000s. I think, we went away from a lot of the practices that we used to have with family, the regiments that we used to go through with family. I think it changed in like 2000. It started in the 90s, the late 90s, but it changed in the 2000s. And one thing that I noticed, that in a lot of these relationships these days, there's no love in them. There's no love in them, because you will see things in relationships, and if you're like in an older age, I say maybe like in your 40s or up, you would definitely notice the change that has gone on in relationships today, and the values and the things that we used to base our relationships on, it doesn't exist like that anymore. It's different now. Nowadays, relationships are contractual. It's about, when you talk and you listen, it's about, what can you do for me? What are you bringing to the table, right? And that's that's not love. And if love has to be your foundation. And if you build a house on a unstable foundation, that house is going to fall. And you have to build your relationship on love, on a solid foundation, you know? Because these relationships today, they're like a give and take situation. It's about, what can you give me, or what can I benefit from what you have to give me, and the other person. And when I speak like that, I'm speaking both ways. It's not a one-sided thing. And the other person is thinking the same way. What can you do for me that's going to benefit me, right? And a lot of times we get into situations and it's not based on love. And then when we start looking for the love and it's not there, then we start to get, frustrated. We start to get frustrated with what we got going on. But you went into it with the wrong mindset and the wrong foundation. So if your relationship is not built on love, I don't really see it going far unless you understand and y'all have came to an agreement that this is just for convenience and is contractual. You give me this and I'll give you this, And a lot of times, people go into it with hidden agendas. A lot of times I see people looking for help. They're not looking for love. They're looking for help to get to a certain level, a certain status that they're trying to obtain in life. And they can't do it by themselves. So they look for somebody else to help them get to a level. Now, there's nothing wrong with building with a person. There's nothing wrong with building. Actually, that is something that you would want to do. But like I said, it has to be built on love. It can't be just built on what can you do for me? Because then, unless it's agreed upon amongst both and you have communicated that to one another, and that's what it is what it is, right? So with that being said, I just want to say, when I think I was about 15, I was with my grandfather, rest in peace, O.D. Davis. I want to give a shout out to O.D. Davis, my grandfather. He was a preacher, and I used to do work with him around his house, do different things because, he had a lot of land and things going on. He used to help. I used to help out and he used to give me a little money or whatever when I was young. And I asked him one day, I said, Granddaddy, and if anybody knows me, they may have heard this story before because I tell it a lot because it always resonated with me because, his words always stood strong with me. But I said, Granddaddy, I said, why relationships don't last like y'all relationships used to last? Y'all relationships last because, they be in relationships 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years. They be they high school sweethearts and they be 60 years, 50 years into it, right? He said, you want me to really tell you? I said, yeah, I want you to really tell me. He said, because y'all are selfish these days. He said, y'all only think about yourself. Y'all only think about what a person can do for me. And when I say me, that person that's being selfish, you only think about what a person can do for you. He said back when we were growing up, we always thought, what could I do for that person? How can I benefit that person? How can I bring that person up? How can I, be a better half to that person? So it wasn't based on you. It was based on the person that you were trying to engage with, trying to build a relationship with. And a lot of times this is why we fail in relationships because we wasn't given the information. You know what? I want to take that back because with those relationships there, we had the blueprint But like I said, in the late 90s and to 2000, I think everything went wrong because the family started to die. The family started to die. So we started looking at different options for relationships. It wasn't about family anymore. It was about self. Just like my grandfather said, he said, because we look at what a person can do for me, being selfish, right? So I think that's where a lot of times we went wrong. Again, we have to get back to loving one another. And before we get to the end, when we get to the end of this podcast, I'm going to tell you what love is. But I just want to give you some insight on the effects of love, right? We're going to get there. We're going to get to what love is, right? There's a thin line between love and hate too. This is why you find a lot of people that were in relationships together. They don't like each other now. They kind of like at odds with each other, and they hate each other a lot of times. A lot of times the exes can't get along, right? And there's a reason for that, because like I said, there's a thin line between love and hate. It can be dangerous that dealing with a person in a relationship with an immature mindset. And when I say immature, I mean a person that hasn't healed from past relationships. When you deal with somebody that's bringing baggage to a relationship that hasn't healed, you're going to pay for everything those past people did in your life, in their life. They're going to blame you. They're going to punish you for everything that they did without giving you a fair chance to give them who you are. And they don't give you a clean slate. They're coming with baggage. So it's always important for you to know who you're dealing with. It's always important. This is why the dating period is so very important, because this is the time that gives you to understand who you're dealing with. It understands how they think, their morals, their values, their character, how they treat people, how they treat family, how they love, and how they treat their friends, and how they treat their kids if they have kids, how they treat their loved ones. This is the things that you learn while you were in a relationship. And these are the things that's when things are going good. And it is very, 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 very important for you to understand how when somebody's back is against the wall, because when it gets to that hard place and adversity kicks in, you have to know a person's problem solving skills. You have to know their emotional levels that they deal with when they're in a pressure situation. Are they violent? Are they cool headed? Or can they make great decisions while the heat is on? While they're in pressure situations. Those are the things that you need to know. And see, this is why when people get in relationships and it's all good in the beginning, like they say, when you meet the representative, you really don't know who that person is. This is why this is dangerous, because you really don't know who that person is until you have went through trials and tribulations with this person, and then you have understand how they react in all type of situations. And then how that person is, you have to make sure that fits with you, right? Because you have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. You have to open up. See, a lot of times you have people and they have this wall up, and because they don't want you to get in and get to know who they are. So they're guarded, and especially, they guard their heart. But also they're guarding themselves because they don't really want to let you know who they truly are. Because see, when you put up that wall, no one can get in. So you have to understand, you have to open up yourself. So where that person can meet you, and where you're empty, he can fill. And that way you can mesh together. So if you're always closed, there's no way that he can get in, because no one is a complete person. Everyone needs that other half to, in a relationship, needs that other half to make them better. If a person is not, making you better, giving you that calm, because in the universe, everything is balance. That's what I was, when I was speaking to you of, good, hate, love and hate, the opposite, because there's always a balance. That's why there's that hate there, because there's love, right? So you have to find that person that balances you, when you're way up here and, you just you might be out of your mind, have that person to come in to level you off. Or when you're down here, have to have that person to come in to pick you up to where y'all can balance each other out, and that's very important when you're looking to establish a relationship with somebody. You can't have somebody that's always up here and then you're always up here, because then y'all just gonna be in a frantic situation. That's why they always say, opposites attract, because that is your calm. That is your leveler. That's the person that levels you out. You know what I mean? And that's the person that can get you motivated, that makes you better, that challenges you, to be a better person, make you want to go to higher levels in life. That is the person, that is for you, So another thing is you have to understand love is pain. Sometimes love hurts because it's just not always, peaches and cream. Sometimes love is correction. Sometimes love is when somebody want to tell you, you wrong. You wrong about that, or you approached that wrong. You didn't do right. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. It's correction. You sometimes love is pain. Sometimes love hurts. And, because someone may do something to you because you have let them in, and they may do something that you don't deem as loving. But sometimes love is not always pretty, and sometimes it's not feeling good, because like I told you before, love is not a feeling. And people sometimes misconstrue that when somebody doesn't do something that they don't deem as loving, that they not for you, or they trying to hurt you or something like that. But that is not the case. That is definitely not the case. Sometimes love hurts, and you have to understand that. And that, like I said, love is not a feeling. And a lot of times in relationship, and I know I'm going to relationship, and I'm relating this to love, because this is when a lot of love is executed. But we have love for our friends, and and we have love for family members or whatever. But I'm just basing a lot of things on relationship, even though this is not a relationship topic, but it's a part of it, right? So a lot of times people seek love for their emptiness and their brokenness. And that's where you can get fooled a lot, because a lot of times people are looking for love so much that anything that just looks like it might be love, they invite it in and they give them their all. And when it doesn't turn out how they expected, they feel hurt, like the person didn't fulfill what their obligation was to make them feel right. But one of the things I have to say is you can't expect someone else to make you happy. That is not somebody else's job to make you happy. That is your job. No one can make you happy. Happiness comes from within. And that's going to tie into when I tell you what love is that's coming up. Happiness have to come from within. Happiness does not come from somebody else. Somebody else does not have that obligation to make you happy. Only you can make you happy. That's the only person that can make you happy, right? A lot of us been taught wrong what love is, because a lot of us have been taught that thinking that love is a feeling, and it's not. And the reason why I can tell you that love is not a feeling, because our feelings are up and down every day. So sometimes we get out the bed on the wrong side of the bed. Sometimes, something may swing our emotions or our feelings or whatever. So if your emotions swing, if you have emotional swings like that, love does not swing like that, because love is love. Whether, like I said, if it feels good or it hurts, it's still love, right? So love is not a feeling, because you can love me today and hate me tomorrow. So that means that we can be in a relationship today and not in a relationship tomorrow, because your feelings are all going to be all over the place in certain instances with certain things. So love is not a feeling. And a lot of times being taught wrong, when I say we're being taught wrong about love, is because a lot of people chase fantasies with love, because they've seen these love stories on TV. They've seen these little snippets of what they think love is, and social media, what they've seen, wherever they may have got these ideas of love it's wrong, because love, those are only snippets. Those are only moments of love. See, when you see those movies and things, they have to compress that down into like 2 hours, right? Your life is 24 hours in a day. They don't show you the other parts that go on, not that little love part. They might have a little section in there where, the couple is not getting along or something like that, but those are just snippets, and that is a role that is being played in a movie. They not showing you the ins and outs and the day-to-days of how somebody love, right? And we got to stop chasing these fantasies of what we think love is. Love is not holding hands and skipping through the lily field, and when we kiss, fireworks go off. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen, but that's only a segment of what love is, because you have to build to get to that point, right? And if you just had your first kiss and that goes off, that's not love. That's infatuation. That's lust. That's not love. And we got to stop confusing lust with love, because those are two different things, right? And this is why when you chase those fantasies, this is why a lot of relationships are unfulfilled. It's because it doesn't look like what you saw on TV or at the movies, and what you have playing in your head of what you think a relationship, a loving relationship is, right? Even with the loving situation, like I said, like the Cosby Show, those are just snippets to put together a program to give you entertainment, right? Like I said, this is why so many people are unfulfilled, because they have these unrealistic expectations when they get into relationships. And I was talking to a psychologist one time, and we were having discussion or whatever, and she told me, she said, So when you get into a relationship, you should have no expectations. I know that sound kind of probably throwing you for a loop right now, but you should have no expectations because you don't know who this person is, and you really don't know what to expect from them. So you have to let them give to you what they got to give, and then you find out what they have to give, right? See, because if you go into it with you having these expectations of what a person is supposed to do, then when those expectations are not being met, then that's when the frustration kicks in, right? Then when you're in a relationship and you get frustrated, after a while, that frustration turns into anger. And that's not a good deal when you in a relationship and you're angry. It's best to digress, go and figure out what's triggering you to be angry, and then you need to communicate with that person, right? What it is that's getting you to that point, because like I tell you all the time, communication is the key. If you're not communicating, you will not get an understanding, and you will not understand the point of view from which that person is coming from. If they explain it to you, then you will get an understanding on what it is that is happening in their minds or in their actions, right? So when you get into a relationship, in order for that relationship to be successful, you got to have the ultimate love. And I'm going to tell you what the ultimate love is. Your ultimate love is self-love. Because see, when you love yourself, you give love into the world. You give love vibration, love frequencies off into the world, and the world and the universe gives that back to you. So if you find yourself not receiving love, then love is not in you. And you're going to have to check yourself, and you're going to have to get to a loving space to give love off into the world so it will come back to you. Because if you give hate into the world, hate is going to come back to you. If you don't give friendship into the world, you're not going to be a friend. You if you're not a friend, you're not going to receive a friend. Because like I told you before, it's all about balance. You have to give to receive. You understand? There used to be a saying that used to go on back in the day. It says a closed hand. You can't give a closed hand anything. So you have to open up. You have to give to receive, right? So these are the things that you have to understand that goes on in life. And like I told you before, there's a thin line between love and hate. I've seen love between in a relationship, lovers or friends. I've seen friends turn to enemies. That's how thin that line is between love and hate. Because the reason why that love is funny like that and it's a thin line, because when you love somebody, you let them in, right? You know, you give them access to your inner self. And when somebody when someone doesn't do you right in a relationship, when they befriend you, or and they give their self to you, they're trusting that you will have their secrets, their dark places. You will keep that, with you, and your insecurities, your skeletons, your fears, your goals. See, because you didn't let that person in to who you are, who you truly are, and you let that person in. And so when a person betrays you, you feel violated, not because just of what they did to violate you or to to not betray your trust, but you feel like now they got all your secrets, and your secrets are open to the world, right? Because like, they say, will they tell somebody, because I confided in this person and I did these things with this person. Now will the world know? But this is why you have to be confident in who you are, because it shouldn't even matter what they know or if they tell someone, because that's who you are. So self-love is the ultimate love, because if you don't love yourself, you won't have love to give. Because see, if you love yourself, even with the Bible, and sometimes I tell you I refer to the Bible because there's great wisdom in the Bible, you know. Um, but in the Bible it says, God said He wants you to live by two commandments. He said, love God with all thy strength, thy heart, and thy mind, right? Because if you love Him, and which is in you, then you're gonna love yourself, and you won't want to see somebody else done harm. You won't want to do harm to somebody else, because God is in you, and you wouldn't want somebody to do you like that, because that comes to the second commandment. He said, love thy neighbor as thy love thyself. So if you love yourself, you're not going to want to do harm to your neighbor, right? Unless the harm is coming from your neighbor and you're just protecting yourself, right? So these are the things that will, give you love and love for one another. Because like I said again, we need love in this world, because hate is running rampant in this world. But you have to understand that is I told you that comes from the top down, right? So these are the things that they want to portray out here in the world. But you have to understand, like I told you about that balance, when it seems like it's all love, because when you put all your focus on something, it becomes bigger. It becomes greater than what it really is. Like, that's why they tell you don't focus on problems, because that problem will become bigger than what it really is. But we can't put our focus on that hate, because there's love over there on the other side balancing that scale. So we have to focus on love. That's why I'm speaking of this today, because we have to get ourselves back to the love. Get back to the love. So, like I said, love give people access to who you really are. So that's why a lot of people get guarded. And I was speaking of before of how when people don't let you in, they got that wall up, because they don't want you to know those things about them. Like I say, the dark places, the insecurities, the skeletons, the fears, But another thing is, love is work. Yeah. Like I told you, love is not a feeling. Love is work. You have to put in the work to love for love. It's just, it's in us, but we have to continually just water that seed of love. Because if we keep throwing dirt over the top of our seed and we never water it, it's never going to grow. And we got to continue the water that waters that seed is love in our deeds, in our actions, in our thoughts, in our ways, so we can get that love returned through the universe back to us, right? And love is not a fantasy. Stop thinking that all that stuff that you see on TV is love. That is entertainment. That is not love. Love comes from deep within. Love is everything, you know. Love is nurturing, you know. It's that nurturing of, you know, that God has given the mothers for, you know, their children, or their mates. You know, women nurture, are natural. It's their nature to nurture, you know, nurture a child, you know, nurture a home, you know, nurture that man, nurture a person's growth. You know, that's, you know, love uplifts. Love you know, it uplifts a person. It gives people confidence. It gives people hope. It gives people uh it gives people love. When, you know, for example, you know, you can smile at somebody and they'll smile back. You never know what a smile will do for somebody, right? When you smile at people, you know, because it's called matching energies. When you give off that type of energy, you'll receive that energy back. But if you're giving negative energy towards somebody, they're gonna give you the energy that they have too. They're going to match your energy. So you have to watch out when, if you find yourself in bad situations all the time, where you get into confrontations, or, you know, all type of negativity. You're gonna have to check yourself and say, you know, why am I receiving all of this? You're gonna have to go deep down and look in the mirror and say, it's got to be me, right? Because people tend to match energies, because that's just the way it is, you know, because if you give it, that's what's going to return to you, right? And love is kind. So, you know, be kind to people, so you can get that back. Be kind, you know. Love is patience. Sometimes, you know, people don't get things when you get it, right? Sometimes you have to be patient with people. And then, you know, just like I say, be nurturing with them. Then they'll finally get it. Long as you portray it right and explain it right, then they'll get it. You got to be a great teacher, so the student get what it is that you're trying to convey, right? You know, you got to have that patience, because if you just always on 100, you're going to crash out. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to crash out, and you just, that's just not going to be a good place for you to be. Also, love is sacrifice. Sometimes you have to deny yourself to see another person's growth. Like, just for instance, a kid, your child, you have to deny yourself to develop that child and develop them into where you want them to go. Because you could be stingy. You could go out there and you can just live your life and not pour into your kids. And then they're not going to have the foundation that you're supposed to instill in them to be good adults, good young adults, until they get to be adults. You could go out there and be selfish, but a lot of times parents sacrifice for their kids, so their kids can have the life that you intend for them to have, right? So love is a sacrifice. And sometimes you have to deny yourself for your mate, because you might want to do something and then you might have to turn that down because it's something that they want to do. Or you might, like I've seen before, where a couple didn't one of the people in the couple didn't pursue a goal because they wanted to pour into their mate and make sure that they got to where they needed to go. You know, they let them establish their dreams, because you could be selfish and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to go after my goals," and you know they might need you to do certain things within the relationship so that person can go. So, you know, it's a sacrifice and it's also a balance. So you have to get together and get on the same page and get in the same get the same goals, and you put it together to where you both can obtain your goals, you know. But at certain points there might be sacrifices that needed to be made so that y'all can further yourselves in the relationship, right? But like I said before, you know, so like I said, I told you, I gave you the definition of what love is. I gave you some of the remnants of what love, the effects of love, you know, especially in relationships, whether it's family, friends, or mate, you know. Like I said, love is a choice. Love is a choice. You have to choose it. You got to say, I'm going to love this person through thick and thin. You know, that's what the vows are. You know, when you get married or whatever, that's what the vows are. That's all it is. It's saying you're going to make a choice to love this person through thick and thin, sickness and health. And that's what all those, and then, you know, you have some people that write their own vows or whatever, but that's what the vows are. They're saying that you're going to choose love, that you're choosing love, you know. You have to choose it. And just like anything else in life, love is a choice. It's when you come to that why in the road, because everything in life is a choice. When you come to that why in the road, you have to make a decision. Am I going to go left or am I going to go right? You know, am I going to do right or am I going to do wrong? You know, and a lot of times we get into situations where we don't understand why things are happening to us. And sometimes it's because of the choice you made. You know, a lot of times people say, oh, well, the devil is busy. Nah, that's just you made bad choices in your life. And now you reaping the benefits or the repercussions of your bad decisions. And you can't blame that on anything. Like they say, the roosters have came home to roost. Yeah. And a lot of times you have to look at the decisions you have made. You know, sometimes you have to look deep down inside. You have to meditate and figure out, how can I correct my poor decision making, right? Because like I say, that why in the road, if you have a little age on you or whatever, and you used to watch cartoons, you know, everything is that moment when you used to see on the cartoons where a person has a decision to make and that devil pop up on his shoulder and he say, do this, do this, do this. And then that angel pop up, he say, no, don't do that. Do this, do this, do this. That's the same thing through life. That's the same thing through life. You always gonna have that devil on that shoulder and that angel on this shoulder. And like I say, you know, that's a concept, you know, so, you know, don't take that as literally, but that's basically what it is. Take it for what it's worth, because, you know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, when I chose to do good, evil was present. And basically that's all he's saying is, when you choose to do good, believe me, there's going to be a choice to do wrong too. They'll do bad. Or when you choose to do right, it's always going to be a choice to do wrong. So always know that and try to make the best decision possible, you know, because when you choose bad, there's consequences with them bad choices. And sometimes it might not hit at that moment, but it's going to hit. And it might hit when it's at the wrong time for you. And you know, but you have to always understand that God got your back, and all things work for the good of those who love the Lord and is called to his purpose. Just always remember that. So with that being said, like I always tell you, I try to give you a gem at the end of the podcast. So I wanna give you this gem, right? So I want to say, before you can find love, you must become love and love yourself, because you can't give nothing you don't have. So you got to become love and give love if you want love to come back to you, right? And you won't attract love until you love yourself and have love to give. You will reap what you sow. So if you want love, you got to give love, right? If you want smoke, you're going to give some smoke, right? So if you catching smoke, you must have engaged some smoke out somewhere, and it's coming back to you. The universe will always give you what you give it. So whatever you want in life, you got to give it to the universe so it can come back, right? Whatever you want in life, that's just a universal law. That's just the way it is. And I want to tell you this one too. Who you attract is a reflection of yourself. You reflect who you are. So if you find yourself, I hear a lot of women say, all I'm attracting is bums. Not literal bums, but cats that they call bums. But all I'm attracting is these type of men, because they fail to take accountability of who they are, because they only attracting who they are. See? So if you find yourself not getting quality person, that means that you're not a quality person yourself. You have some things that you're going to have to go and reevaluate, and you're going to have to change, because you're going to you're only going to get who you are. Your mate is a reflection of you. Is a reflection of you. If you have things to work on, you're going to attract people that have things to work on. The same things that you have to work on, right? Because they're going to expose those things to you. You're going to find those things are going to come out. Those things are going to come out, and you're going to understand that these are things that I have to work on, right? So you attract who you are. Your mate is a reflection of who you are. Even your kids are a reflection of who you are, because they picked up all your traits. Now, they may go on to grab and turn into their own person, but you the one that gives them their foundation. When they're in their what I call sponge years, when they just soaking up everything from you, they just gonna regurgitate what you gave them. They're just gonna be that they're gonna show you who you are. And like, I'm gonna give you another one out the Bible. It said, train up a child in the way that he should go, so that he never deviate from it. He'll never deviate from it. May get off path sometime, but he'll always come back in to what he know, right? So you got to give him a great foundation. You got to give him a great foundation. Teach your kid what's right. Watch what you say around them. Watch what you put around them, because they soaking up everything. They listen to everything, and they looking at everything that you do, right? So with that being said, I want to say, let that sink in. And again, I want to say one more thing. And I told you, I said, I'm going to tell you what love is, right? So, finna tell y'all what love is. Out of everything that I told you, God is love. So remember that. Let that sink in. And if you like this episode, I would like you to ask you to tell your friends, tell your family, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share this video. I just want y'all to get the love back, get back to loving one another, get back to loving yourself first. Get back to loving yourself and spread more love, because we're going to need it in these years coming up ahead, because there's a lot of things, like I tell you all the time, it's coming down the pipe. So with that being said, I would like to thank you, and hopefully I'll see you again. Peace.